Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to round number 3 of the Wrong Stuff Racing League. Here we are at Fuji International Speedway, one of super iconic track in Japan. Tonight, it'll be the race number 1. This will be kind of a test race for us, but this is race number 1 for season number 3 for WSRL. My name is Mike Braun. I will be commentating for you tonight, and in the virtual production booth is again Adam Thompson, but we do have a new face, a new voice for the slow motion broadcasting team for the WSRL League, and that is Mr. Daniel Hall. Daniel, welcome to the booth and welcome to WSRL.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to get this league, get the season started, and see how this goes.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different for you. I think you've done a couple other races, but that are not a multi-class, and we are running multi-class here in the WSRL Sprint League. And to tell us, kind of go through a couple of the new things for this season for us, just to lead into what we can expect and what's to come this whole season.
Yeah, multi-class is definitely new to me, but as a whole, this league, new car, the GTP, the new premier class, and in real world IMSA racing and in virtual iRacing. So that's a big change for these drivers. We're going to have a couple of them out there with joining the standard classes of LMP2 and GT3. And we're also going to have live stewarding this year. So should be some cleaner racing, and drivers will expect more concise and quicker interaction and interference from stewards if needed.
Well, we're hoping for cleaner racing, that's for one. With 3 classes on the track, that it should make for some entertaining racing for sure. And this is such an iconic track. I mean, it's 2.8 miles long, and the front straightaway alone is 1 mile long. So, I mean, it's going to lead to some great racing. And I mean, I remember last year, Daniel, we did this race, and there was so much drafting going down that front straightaway. It was so good, and it was really great racing. And with the 3 classes, I think it's going to be great. So as we're going over right now, we're watching a little bit of qualifying right now, seeing some cars run on the track right now. We are watching Serrano in the brand new BMW GTP LMDH cars. They just came out, what was it, last month, I think it was, just before the Daytona race. And so we thought we'd throw them in this league and see what can happen with them. And they are definitely laying down some laps. Serrano comes by with a 123.1. He's got him slotted in the number 2 spot, right behind Wayne Castillo. Wayne coming around with a 122.9. Looks like he's parked in the pits right now. He might be resetting or whatnot, but we still have 3 minutes left of qualifying. So it should be an interesting race today. As you see, we got some new features in slow motion broadcasting. We've got a new leaderboard over here, so it's a little different. So we're still working through a little bit of bugs. So if you see something that looks a little wacky, it probably is. So let's just bear with us. We are still learning the new settings, but this is something new that we have for this season for slow motion. It's going to be a new tower, a lot more details, and it just looks a lot more appealing. And some of the other fine little quirks that we're going to be debuting during this season. So it's going to be a very exciting season for us. I mean, Daniel, have you ever ran on this Fuji track? Have you run? I mean, I know you're a GT3 guy, similar to myself. Have you ran on Fuji before?
I have not as much as I needed to be competitive, so probably a good thing I'm up here in the commentary booth and not on the track with these guys. But yeah, it's a interesting track. Got a lot of elevation changes, a lot of different corner types, and you mentioned that super long straightaway. So we're going to see even some drafting down this main front straightaway that's over a mile long.
Yeah, there's some great passing zones on this track, and this is the version that does not have the that chicane at the end of the other straightaway on the backside, so it makes it a little bit easier. But having that hairpin chicane at the end of that straightaway, man, you could really slam on the brakes and make some good dive bomb passes through there. But as you see, we're winding down on our qualifying session right now. We've still got about 1:30 left in qualifying. As we're looking at Billy Bowerman right now on the track. Looks like Billy's got about a 136.4 for his best time to put him about 12th overall. in the GT3 class, running the Audi tonight. And that's one thing about the league too is you pick a car and you actually run it through the whole season. Is that correct, Daniel? I mean, you can you have to really pick your car wisely at the beginning of the season as you look through all the tracks. I mean, what's your thoughts? What would your pick be for this kind of a season?
Yeah, that is an interesting dynamic and an interesting challenge these drivers face from the start, from the outset of the season, where you're kind of locked into one car, and how that car drives in the first couple races might set you up really well in the points, but if it doesn't work in the latter half of the season, you could run into some issues. So if I was picking a car, I'd pick something that's a little more subdued, a little easier to drive at a wider variety of tracks. So something that you might give up some top speed here and there, and you might give up some downforce at other tracks, but definitely something that's easy and consistent to drive over a wide variety of tracks. That would be my pick.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, you can change cars throughout the season, but you are penalized points. So let's see how the qualifying order goes here. On the pole for this first practice race is going to be Wayne Castile in the Maradness car number 33. Then you got Ricardo Serrano, about a quarter of a second back in that second spot. Third spot is going to Carson Keene. Mike Weir will sit in the fourth spot. Then you got Justin Barrera sitting in the fifth spot. Jack Lee in sixth. Leon Clover sitting in the seventh spot, and in the eighth spot, Elliot Burton. Next to him in the ninth spot is going to be Daniel Curio, and then Georgie McKay in the 10th spot. Lilac Zier will round out your field in the LMP class in the 11th spot. Out in front in the GT3 class, you are going to have Jay Daniel. Where is it on the board? You got me all messed up, Adam. In the 13th spot, we got Jake Luther. Next to Jake is Bradley Alvis. Then you got Jesse Olson, John Javecki in the 16th spot. Kevin Medina in the 17th spot. Andrew Korostecki in 18th. 19th is going to go to my guy Brandon Johnson. And then Bjorn Stange in the 20th. And then in the 21st spot, you got Chris Daniel. And then Andrew Power in the 22nd spot. Billy Bowerman's going to sit in 23rd. Zach Robinson in 24th. Dominic Angelicchio in 25th. Joey Rutledge in 26th. Eric Rodriguez, Matthew Dweeter, Eric Letsky, and Ben Simic will round out your 30-car field. That's an overall field of 30 cars. As you see the LMDH's GTP cars pull away first, and then the LMP2s, and now the GT3s are going to come through. Daniel, what's a little bit different? We did change something with the starting sequence for these cars. What is a little different this season?
Yeah, interesting note on the starting sequence. Classes separated by about 5 seconds. Give these drivers some good chance to spread out, not have classes interfere with each other, especially on the first laps. That can be really tricky to handle traffic when everyone's all bunched together. But yeah, we see the GTP field where we don't see any of the other cars behind them, so they're going to have a gap, and each class has a designated starting zone as they go down this front straightaway. So GTP field should start somewhere between the Advan banner over the track and the start-finish line, and the pace car pulls off as we see them about to take their start.
And it looks like they're starting to come down, and Wayne Castile leads them down the front straightaway for the first time, and we get the green flag down the front straightaway. All them GTP cars tucked in with each other to get a little bit of draft, and here comes your LMP2 cars. Our field is a little low tonight. It is just a practice race, but we do expect a full field next week when we come out next week for week number 1 of the official points race. As you see the LMP's cars coming into turn 1 side by side. You've got Clover and Curio side by side in the 176 and the 131, and Leon Clover takes over that third spot. And here comes your GT3 class, a good 20-car field for the GT3 class. Out in front in the GT3s is Daniel in the 266, and then right behind him is Bradley Alvis. So good, clean start from these guys. I mean, as expected, we have a good group of drivers this season, and I'm really excited to see what goes on. but you've got everybody really kind of going into a single file form right now and just following each other around, getting to kind of learn each other's racecraft and to see where they kind of fold out with each other. The field coming around right now, we got Jesse Olson in the 216 for Shut Up and Drive It team coming through and sitting in about the 5th spot right now, 6th spot. And everybody just kind of finding their way around right now with one lap down. Here comes your GTP cars down the front straightaway with Ricardo Serrano leading the pack right now. Looks like Wayne Castile dropped back a little bit. I wonder if something happened to Wayne because he did start out on the front pole and he is back a little bit of these guys. So I wonder if he had a little bit of incident on that first lap. But we got Ricardo Serrano out in front with Carson Keene right behind him. Carson was extremely fast last year with some of the races that we had. And then right behind him is one that everybody knows, Justin Barrera, sitting in that 3rd spot. They are just kind of finding their way around right now, Daniel. How would you feel about going in around, a new league on a track that you're not super familiar with, but, you got to pack, as a GT3 driver, you've got a pack of 20 cars that you have to run with. What would your first few laps be with this team?
Yeah, I as we kind of see, everyone's kind of been patient, given plenty of space. It's a new league. You don't really want to start off the season making any enemies and have to deal with that all year. But yeah, the racing's been pretty cordial, and everyone's just kind of settling in. They know they got to get some laps in, build that rhythm, and then you can kind of race it out toward the end. But we're going to have strategy. We're going to have pit cycles. We're going to have a lot more that goes into this race. And it's a long one. It's 50 minutes long. So don't need to be super aggressive right off the jump, but it's led to some clean racing to start.
Yeah, we got Ricardo still leading that GTP class right now in car number 64. And Carson just sitting back. I'm wondering if he's just sitting back saving a little bit of fuel. We were talking about, doing some fuel management in this race. This is a perfect track to do fuel management with that full 1 mile long front straightaway. It's so easy just to save some fuel and just sit back and just wait and bide your time. And then, get a little bit quicker pit stop because you have to fill up your tank less than the guy ahead of you. So to kind of do an undercut or an overcut, either way, it'll be a good option for these guys. As we're just coming over the 3:30 down mark, everybody's getting settled in. You got Serrano out in front in the GTP class, and then in your LMP class, you've got Mike Weir out in front in the wrong stuff, car number 20. They're about, I don't know, about 10 seconds behind your leader here in this GTP class. And then in the GT3 class, you got Bradley Alvis that's being shown out in front right now in the AM class. And then you've got Daniel still out in front in the Pro-Am class. So you just got to remember that we do have 2 separate classes of GT3. You've got the Pro-Am and the amateur class. So it does lead to a little bit of different dynamic, Daniel. When you have different guys, you got different car numbers on cars that you can watch. Does that change your style of driving at all while we're going around the track?
Yeah, it lets you know who you can race a little bit harder, maybe. With the pro guys, you're going to have a quicker pace, but you're also going to have usually more experience and more kind of side by side combat, if you will, experience. So that's something to notice when you're running against the same class in the GT3s. So that is a dynamic to watch this whole season and who you can really trust.
Yeah, to see the LMPs really starting to close in now. Obviously, one car sideways back there, a GT3, that looked like the Porsche of Ben Simic in spinning out through that section. Right there's where that chicane is. This is a real tricky little curve that's kind of off camber a bit, and I'm wondering if he ran off and got into those. Just ran off and just got a little tail happy on him. So the Porsche doing what Porsches do and spin out on that little tricky corner. But as you go back to your leader in the GT3 class, Daniel, the 266 car, he's been out in front since we started it, and he is rolling away. He's got Jake Luther right behind him. Jake choosing the Lambo. I'm a little surprised with that pick. I probably, as we were talking earlier, the GT3 guys are kind of stuck with their car unless they want to pay a penalty of points. I probably would have went with the BMW, just my personal self. And as you see, that's paying off for Daniel out in front right now. But I think these guys are really just starting to set their pace in. We're only 6 minutes into an almost full 1 hour race. But as you can see from the track map in the upper right-hand corner, the GT3s are starting to make their way through the GT3 class now. So your leaders are finally starting to catch up to them, and they're going to start making their way through the lap traffic. As you see, Ricardo's still out in front and battling with Carson Keene in that GTP car. They're really starting to catch into that. Here's the first car he's going to see in the GT3 class. And this is where the drivers, the ability to drive and just hold your line. I mean, not necessarily hold your line, but your racecraft is how courteous are you to some of these guys. So you see the car there kind of start diving in just a little bit. It looked like Eric Letsky was trying to move out of the way, but everybody else is doing a pretty good job. And as you see, Carson backs down just a bit, just to wait his turn. He didn't want to go diving in there, especially with two GT3 cars side by side and just cutting through the traffic right now, getting by Dweeter. Doing a good job. Everybody seems to be doing no good job. I haven't seen any real bad damages. Nobody there's your favorite picture, Adam. That is the best driver override picture in the game, Eric Letsky with the shoes up. I hope that's not how he's driving his car right now, but it looks like everybody's really managing themselves quite well. With only 30 cars on the track, I think that's a good number for this, but when we have, close to 50 next week, it could get a little bit more hairy, Daniel, as we see something going on here. Looks like Jake Luther going on the inside to take over the spot from Daniel onto turn one. That's a very popular braking zone, Daniel, and I mean, that's probably like the premier spot to pass on this track.
Yeah, get a run down that super long straightaway, draft up right behind them, make a late dive, and take that inside line away. That is a common way to pass here for sure. But going back to your point about the multi-class racing and the dynamic that adds, that really rewards smart drivers that can balance their level of patience with their level of aggressiveness. You can be super aggressive, but you're liable to risk some wrecks. And if you're overly cautious, you're just going to let the cars that have that right level of aggressiveness pull away from you or catch you from behind. So that's the one thing, and especially in the faster classes, is to balance that patience and aggressiveness. And then in the GT3s, it's all about how do you let the faster class cars go without compromising your own race and costing you time. So it's a give and take. You got to kind of work together, and I think we'll see a lot of that this season as we go on throughout the year.
Definitely. I mean, that's one of the rules in the league, is just being respectful, and we would really want to teach racecraft with this league. And that's one thing that's really made me proud to be part of this league and actually be an admin in the league, is because we really do teach everybody to be respectful and learn a racecraft instead of just being that guy that drives and bonsais through everybody. As you see a battle starting to develop for that GT3 class right up in front. They came through the leaders of the GT3 class, but your top two cars in the LMDH GTP class going down the straightaway, drag racing. It looks like Ricardo and Carson battling it out. Carson could probably sneak back in for a little bit of draft, and Ricardo just cutting them off. Here I am talking about respect and whatnot, but I mean, that was a pretty gutsy move right there. And Carson did the smart thing. He backed down and just saved it for another day, and he'll get him when he wants to. So he's sizing them up, and that's one thing you do with these cars, is you get in the back behind somebody, you draft along with them, and then just take off, and you can draft them going into that turn one, just like we saw with that GTP car or GT3 car a little bit ago, Daniel.
Yeah, that's the thought we were going to have a move there for sure, but you also saw down the straightaway that the level of aggressiveness isn't only from the car behind. A very aggressive block to kind of seal off for the lead. Now we're looking at Justin Barrera and now Wayne Castile. But the level of aggression kind of ramping up almost.
Yeah, and this is a big track. This is almost a 3 mile long track. So it leads to some good wide open racing. But in as kind of a pre-production meeting, Daniel, you and I were talking about some other tracks that could get interesting. And I think later on down the season, we're going to be going to Magna Cour, which is a lot smaller of a track. And if you get 40 to 50 cars in 3 different classes, that's going to lead to some real interesting racing and some real interesting passing. So this track here is a perfect test for this league to just get comfortable, to get used to driving with each other. And then next week we'll be at Spa, which is another big, long, stretched out track. So it's getting everybody comfortable with each other and having the 3 different classes running at the same time. And when the LMPs come by, they're not as fast as the GTPs when they come through the traffic. So it'll lead to some good racing and just getting a good feel for everybody. But it looks like right now everybody is pretty spaced out. But our closest battle right now for the lead is going to be in the GTP class, as Ricardo Serrano's still out in front. He's got about that half a second advantage on Carson Keene. It looks like they're both. Ricardo's fast lap was a 123.6 and Carson has a 123.5. But Justin Barrera sitting in that 3rd spot. Never underestimate that guy. He is Daniel, you weren't here with us last season, but this is the fuel mileage master right here. He is always the one pushing the envelope, and he's always get that one extra lap or that one less pit stop. So keep an eye out for him this season, Daniel. I be sure you'll learn something about fuel mileage from this guy, definitely.
Yeah, and he races in another league I call, so I've seen some of that fuel mileage and some of his level of driving, and it is pretty good. So definitely will be one I look for this season.
It looks like he's just slipped away from the draft right now. He's about 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds behind your leaders. But now you've got Mike Weir in the LMP class. Not the right car on Mike there, but it looks like Mike is actually supposed to be in the BMW, and it looks like Mike is actually running 5th in the BMW GTP class. So your leader in the LMP2 class is Mr. Burton in the 165 car. So that will be your leader in there you go right here. Elliot Burton out in front in the 165 car. And as you see, there's a little bit of difference between the cars, between the LMDHs and the LMP2s. The LMP2 is a little bit more upright, a little bit more taller, but where the LMDH GTPs definitely have a lot more aerodynamics and stick down to the ground. As you see, we still have that battle with Carson Keene and Ricardo Serrano. And here they come down that front straightaway. We go on board with Ricardo. Daniel, why don't you take us on board with Ricardo and just kind of give us a lap guide around here on this track as we come down that front straightaway?
Sure, yeah, we're on board with Ricardo Serrano, and you see him kind of lined up on the inside of the straightaway, trying to break that draft a little bit from 2nd place, but you'll see him slide back to the left and drive in deeper than the GT cars can for sure into turn 1. There's a right-hander, and then another little bit of a right-hander, not really much of a turn in these cars, and then lining up for this quick left-hander kind of over a crest, and then switch back to the right on a long sweeping corner. Kind of got to play with the throttle. As you can hear, he's in and out trying to keep the car planted and slowed down for this next left-hander. It's kind of a wide exit. It's kind of confusing. It looks a lot narrower than it ends up being. And then kind of down this back straightaway, a couple right-hand bends, and then this is where the normal track goes to the right there and has a little chicane, but not today, as we come back up to this, up the hill, and then back down into a slow speed left-hander that you got to swing out really wide for to line up and hit the apex just right. And then this little bit where it's really critical to get a good run down this super long straightaway and hitting the apex and hitting the exit curb just right, carry as much speed as possible, and back onto the straightaway. And that's a lap around Fuji here.
That is a good lap around Fuji, and it is a very fun track. It's probably one of my more favorite tracks right now that we're running. And as we got the GTP class, right, LMD class right now of Elliott Burton, that is your leader in the 165. He's opened up to a 4-second advantage now on Leon Clover, and just pulling away. He's doing a great job. And I mean, the LMP2 classes really separated themselves quite a bit, and everybody getting spaced out, especially with going through all the traffic. It really leads to them to open it up quite a bit. And but your closest battle is definitely in the GT3 class when you've got so many cars in the GT3 class running together. And you've got Daniel still out in front with Jake Luther right behind him. Jake Luther is definitely not letting go of that back wing yet, as we're just coming up on the 16:30 down mark. So we're just closing in on about a quarter of the way through the race. Is that LMP car really slow on the brakes right there? That was the 131 of Daniel Curio, just a little slower on the brakes, and I think Daniel had to get on the brakes just a little bit harder than he expected to. But you see a 4-car breakaway in the GT3 class right now. You got Daniel, Luther, Olsen, and Alvis just really starting to pull away. And then you got a little bit farther back to Kevin Medina in the 5th spot right now. But Luther is just all over that back wing of Daniel, and it has been since the beginning. I think Jake is just biding his time. He is a wily driver as well, and I think he's going to work his way up there. So you see the 196, the Sudi slow motion car of Bradley Alva sitting in the 4th spot right now. About a second and a half behind Olsen, Jesse Olsen. As I hear the team manager in my ear yelling at Bradley for doing something, but we won't talk about that right now. But then in the 5th spot right now in the GT3 class, you've got Kevin Medina in the 214, also in a Sudi slow motion car. Good to see the collab going together with this team. And then in the 6th spot is Andrew Korostecki, running the Porsche. That guy seems to like them Porsches with them bright yellow wheels. I'm not too sure. And then we got the best beard in the business, Eric Rodriguez, also running a Porsche. Looks like team colors with Andrew. And then behind Eric, since we'll just run through the field right now, is the 269 car of Matthew DeWeeder running an Audi. That's a little bit of a surprising car for me to pick with a class where you're stuck with a car. But you know, we'll see how Matt is able to get it going. And then right behind him is his teammate Brandon Johnson in another Audi right there. So it's just teammate and teammate as you see a GTP car getting through there nice and clean with them. Right behind Brandon Johnson is Bjorn Stange running the Lambo. Not too far behind him is Chris Daniel in another Porsche. And running for Mad Sim Racing in the 291. Right behind him is Billy Bowerman running for Empire Racing, also running an Audi. I mean, if you can get an Audi to go around a track, it's going to be fast, but man, it is pure death if you don't pay attention to it all the time. Right behind him is a new member to our league, is John Javecki, also with Mad Sim J2 Motorsports, running the 255 Porsche right now. Right behind him is Joey Rutledge. Joey in the Ferrari. That seems to be Joey's go-to car. That has always seemed to be the car he is running. And then right behind Joey, about 4 seconds behind him is Eric Letsky, the best photo in the business there. And then you got Dominic Angelicchio right behind him in the 317. And as you notice, that as we're going through the GTP class, you've got numbers 300s and you've got 200 numbers. So the 200 numbers are the Pro-Am class, so it's a little bit higher division, and the 300s are the Am class. So they are running together on the track. They are running different in points, though. So, but we're doing good right now, getting everybody through. So behind Dominic is the 387 of Andrew Power. In Power Racing Ferrari right now. Looks like they might have had a little bit of damage on there. And then you got Ben Simic running the 311 Northwest Porsche. And then Zach Robinson looks like he is off the track right now. That basically runs us through the entire field of GT3s. Daniel, why don't you take us through the prototypes right now? We'll go through the GTPs and the LMD2s.
Yeah, so leader of your GTP is, as we've had the last few laps, is Ricardo Serrano, as we saw his onboard lap earlier. Behind him is Carson Keene. Right behind him, he's giving him a good run for his money there. That battle's going to heat up later in this race. And then third, a little bit farther back, is Wayne Castile, and then Justin Barrera running in fourth, just behind him. And then Mike Weir running fifth in the 20 car. And then we jump to our LMP2 field. We have Elliot Burton leading that class, and then Leon Clover behind him in the 176. Jack Lee running third in our LMP2 class, and Daniel Curio in fourth. George McKay in fifth in the 159, and Lilac Zier in the 189 in sixth place, as you see him get overtaken by overall leader Ricardo Serrano.
Good group of drivers right now that everybody's really working their way around, and it looks like the prototype should be coming in for their first pit stop here anytime. I really think that they are about due, so I'm not going to be too surprised if Ricardo jumps in this time by, as he's coming around the last turn right now to come down the front straightaway. Nope, I'm sorry, I missed the turn on there. He's coming down that back straightaway right now. So we got about a half a lap still. We're 22 minutes down, so we're closing in on that halfway point. So this is a point where everybody wants to get through. They want to get through that 25-minute mark and try to make it on one pit stop. But when we're starting at 45% fuel, it's a little tricky to get these cars around for that full half a stint. So it'll be interesting to see when these guys start jumping in. See Ricardo out in front, and Carson Keene still just hanging in behind. I'm really curious if he'd be clutching when he comes down the straightaway. So we'll have to listen to his engine here as he's coming down the straightaway. You can see the speedometer on his steering wheel right now, and no real clutch. It may be lifting just a tiny little bit early, but no clutching yet. So he's not saving too much fuel unless he already saved up enough. But he's been sitting there less than a second behind Serrano pretty much this entire race, and just waiting for the time to get through. But everybody's been really cordial. Nobody's been going off and doing anything crazy. But it looks like Jake Luther now out in front in the GT3 class. Not quite sure what happened to Daniel, but Daniel's back into the third spot now. I don't know if that was a front straightaway pass or what, but looks like, let's see if we have it here. Oh, he just went off the track completely and may have ended up with a slowdown coming off that back straightaway. It's a real tricky section and a real tricky braking section. And so I think that's what happened. He just got too hard on the brakes and just went off the track quite a bit. It looks like we've got drag race down the front straightaway. Jack Lee joining us in the LMP class. And let's see what happened to Jack here. Oh, okay, there we go. Nothing. He just passed for the lead. That's all. I mean, it's nothing big. Just passing Leon Clover for the lead. But it looks like we do have somebody in the pits. This looked like our leader in the LMP class was in the pits. Burton was in the pits, yep, changing tires and getting some fuel in his LMP2 car, and he's just short of the 25-minute mark. So if he was really pushing the time to get there, he's going to have to really save some fuel to really get through to that last stint, because he is past the 25-minute mark to pass that halfway of this race. But you do see our top three cars in the GT3 class nose to tail coming into turn one right now. Jake Luther out in front, and Jesse Olson hanging on to that second spot as they got the car of Jake Luther coming, or Elliot Burton coming through to trying to get through traffic with them. Good battle right now for that top three spots in the GT3 class. Luther, Olson, and Daniel really battling out. And then that other battle that's been going on nonstop for the last 25 minutes is Serrano and Keene. I think this is the point where we're going to see these guys possibly jump in. Oh, and he goes on the inside. Carson Keene looks on the inside, can't quite hold it as they're coming down the front straightaway. They will continue drafting. They have not pit yet, and we're just past the 25-minute mark. So these guys really stretching their fuel mileage to just do one full stint. As we see another car coming out of the pits, it looks like Joey Rutledge in the GT3 class coming in and out of the pits. But Carson Keene really putting some work on Serrano, Daniel. He's really just been fighting with this as we jump back to the GT3 class, and it looks like Jake Luther starting to pull away just a bit, Daniel. I'm not sure if that's the traffic. Oh, and here they come in for their pit stop, Daniel.
Yep. Leaders in GT3, Jake Luther, Jesse Olsen dipping into the pit lane as JD Daniels stays out on the track. So that's a little bit of a strategy call with those two other leaders pitting. Bradley Alvis stays out. He's going to inherit second place. Kevin Medida inheriting third. So these cars are still rolling down pit lane, and they stop for their pits. Doesn't look like they're taking tires. They're staying on the ground. So just fuel only for them, and we'll see where that shakes out and see if the undercut was beneficial to them and maybe pull away once all the rest of the pit stops cycle out.
Looks like they both stopped at the same time and got about the same amount of fuel. So they both came out nose to tail, just like they went in. So it's like they have a drafting buddy now. So that's kind of nice for them to have somebody to run with. As you see, Wayne Castile now up into the second spot now. Carson Keene dropping back to third. Something happened to Carson. He hasn't been in the pits yet, so maybe he ran off the track. As you see right here, he just spun out. That's the second car we've seen come through that turn right there. Off that little back straightaway under hard braking, and without ABS on these LMDHs, it can get a little tricky to get in there and get under hard braking. So looks like he just jabbed the brakes just a little bit too much and had to drop back into that third spot as Wayne Castile was taking advantage of that. He will take that all day long and all night. So you got everybody kind of settling in right now. We are at the 27:30 mark, so just past the halfway mark as these guys are still winding their way around. Your leaders in the GTP class still have not pit yet. It looks like Mike Weir is in the pits right now, your fifth place car. But the GTP or GT3 leaders are in right now. So you've got JD Daniel and Bradley Alvis, Kevin Medida and Matthew Dweeter all in the pits right now. So let's see what it looks like when your previous leaders come through. Let's see what happens when Jake and Jesse come back around. Where are they on the track right now? Let's curious to see if that undercut's going to work or if that overcut's going to work. Let's see how everybody, the whole pack of everybody coming in. Here comes Jake Luther down the straightaway, and let's see where JD came out. That's Bradley Alvis. I think JD is up ahead of him. Oh, no, JD's still in the pits. JD Daniels still in the pits. Wondering if something happened, if he maybe set something different. I don't know, but that is a huge mistake for JD Daniel. It is going to drop him way down the field now. So right now you've got Dominic Angelicchio out in front based on pit stops because Dom has not stopped yet. That's a beautiful livery right there for Dominic in the wrong stuff paint job. But he is out front, and I'm going to assume he's going to be coming in this next time by. He is really pushing the limits of the fuel stop right now. But you got Jake Luther running in the second spot, but he'll actually inherit the lead once Dominic comes in for his stop. Luther with a 134.9 for his fast lap. That is one of the quick laps so far in the GT3 class. As you see our battle right now with Justin Barrera and Carson Keene down the front straightaway. Justin's drafting him down the front straightaway. Is he going to try to make a dive bomb move? He didn't get that nickname for no reason at all as they're coming down the straightaway, but it looks like he's just going to tuck in. He sees clutching. That's what we're talking about. He is saving fuel and trying to get around one more time. He still has not stopped. Neither is Wayne. Neither has Carson. So your top three cars in the GTP class still have not pit yet. Ricardo Serrano sitting in that fourth spot is the first car that has stopped. So he was your early leader, but he's trying to get through some lap traffic right now to try to get some clean air. But Wayne, Carson, and Justin still out there on the original tank of fuel. But it looks like everybody else in the field has pit at least once except for those top three cars. So I really would not be surprised if they dove in this time by as they're coming around. We're just coming over the 30-minute mark. We still got 20 minutes to go. Everybody's still running, all 30 cars still on the track. And everybody, like I said, we've haven't seen any big problems, Daniel. It looks like everybody's just grooving in and just kind of learning each other. But I really think that some of the other races that we got coming up, Daniel, it's going to be some wily racing for sure.
Yeah, this track, great opening race of the season to kind of get everyone familiar with the cars and the difference in speeds and all the drivers you'll be racing. And it's nice and wide, so plenty of space, but we're definitely going to see some tracks that are a lot narrower and a lot shorter. So shorter lap times means more cars. You're gonna more traffic and more cars just kind of on top of each other. So definitely a good practice run, but we'll see that kind of ramp up later on in this season.
So looking at the season schedule, Daniel, do you have one track that you like to look at that you think is going to be a great race for us? Or, I mean, I know we talked about Magna Core being a little bit of a crazy race, but on that schedule, is there one track that you kind of went, hey, this is going to be the race right there?
For action and maybe some carnage, definitely Long Beach later on in this season, kind of the penultimate race. That would be one I would expect and kind of circle as like, we might have some feuds and some differences of opinions when we get to that point in the season. But another one's Hockenheim, not only for the track, but the alternate format that's going to be run. So that'll be another wrinkle thrown into this. So a bunch of exciting races coming up this year.
Yeah, I think we got a great selection of tracks this year, and it's a little bit of mix of everything. A little bit of open tracks, a little bit of, you got the street course in there of Long Beach, and then we also have the little short track, kind of like NASCAR. You go run on a big oval track, and then you got some little short track stuff to rub some fenders on. So, it's going to be an exciting season for sure. As we're just coming up on 33 minutes down. And still have 27 minutes or 17 minutes still to go. As you see, really no close battles right now for the lead. Your closest is going to be in the LMP class um, with Elliott Burton out in front. He's been out in front this entire time. Jack Lee tucked in behind him right now, getting a good draft down that front straight. Makes a dive bomb move down into turn one, hard under braking, goes on the inside, and is actually able to stick that line right there. So Jack Lee now out in front in the 103 car. And then that's going to drop Elliott Burton back into that second spot. So this is going to be a good close battle right now. That is your closest battle for the lead right now on all three divisions. As you see, Wayne Castile still out in front. Looks like Carson Keene in the pits right now. So your early second place car in the LMP class, LMDH class, GTP class, it's going to be a tongue tire all season long. Carson Keene in the pits right now. But Wayne Castile and Justin Barrera still out on the track, still have not pit yet. So they are out in front. Here comes Wayne Castile coming into that first turn, going on the inside of JD Daniel. JD rejoining us, and it looks like he is about the 10th or 12th spot right now after his lengthy pit stop earlier. Not quite sure what happened, so it looks like he's sitting in the 9th spot in the GT3 class. But around the outside comes Carson Keene, your 4th place car in the GTP class. It's going to be taking me a little bit of time to get used to these class names, because they're so close. You got the LMDH and the LMP2, and then you got the GTP and the GT3s. So it's going to take a little bit of tongue tires to get me through this season, but I'm sure by the time we get a little bit closer to the end of the season, one of us will figure that out, right, Daniel? I mean,
I think so. Yeah, we'll get this sorted out and maybe build up a vocabulary and work on our flashcards this week.
Yeah. I mean, and it's, this is a practice race for the drivers, and this is a practice race for us for learning some of the new names and the classes and the new car and some of the new features. So we are all learning every time. As you see Justin Barrera still coming down the front straightaway, and it looks like he is going to make a move into the pits. Wayne Castile in the pits as well. So your top two cars in the GTP class in the pits right now. We saw the other GTPs actually come in and get tires, but they came in a lot earlier. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens as Wayne kind of goes away. Hopefully he did not disappear on us. Not sure where he went. So
He's showing as disconnected, so he may have had some internet issues.
possibly. So you got Justin Barrera in the pits right now, out in front, but he is in the pits, and here comes Ricardo Serrano, your early leader, coming on to the last turn and down the front straightaway. Ricardo ran our IndyCar race that we had season just about a year ago, and did a great job in that league as well. And it's good to have him join us in the Sprint League now, as you see him coming down the front straightaway, and Barrera still out, just came out of the pits. There's Justin Barrera, and he is going to hang on to that lead. So his fuel-saving mileage has just made him actually stay out in front, and it helped him get in and out of the pits nice and quick. And Justin Barrera taking over the lead. He now has an 8-second gap back to Ricardo Serrano. So that is super impressive, Daniel, to be able to fuel mileage that long and now actually stretch out a lead coming out of the pits like that.
Yeah, he was able to use that to his benefit to take on less fuel. And I wonder if Serrano took on tires, and that might be an additional pit stop time for him. So that might be interesting to see if he can use possibly those new tires to run down Justin Barrera.
Yeah, that is a good point. I did not pay attention to see if Justin took tires or not, but I know that Ricardo did. So it'll be interesting to see what the lap times look like towards the end of the race, as we're closing in on about 12 minutes to go. You see John Javecki out in front in the 10th place in the Mad Sim Racing Porsche. Doing a good job. It's good to see him join us. This is a new member to us, and I've seen him in the Discord for Mad Sim and doing some stuff with those guys, and good to have him come along and join us this season. As we go back up front in the GT3 class, you've got Jake Luther still out in front in the Shut Up and Drive It Lamborghini. Right behind him is Jesse Olsen, also in the Sudi Audi. So it's a good battle for that top 2 spots right now. These guys have been nose to tail for quite a while. Jesse just really biding his time right behind Jake. And then you've got Bradley Alvis not too far back in that 3rd spot. Bradley's just close enough that he can see him, but he's not close enough to get any draft from these guys. So it'll be interesting to see if Bradley can work his way up a little bit closer and reel these guys back in. And then a little bit farther back is Kevin Medina, as you see him back there in that gold-colored Sudi slow motion car. So Sudi cars running up front, they're all running really good right now. It's a pretty big team. I've overheard them talking about their Daytona trip and running the virtual 24-hour race, and just the entertainment that they had with that. We won't talk about Adam's drive there as well, but yeah, as I get an earful on that one. So we got about 11 minutes left to go. Everybody's really grooved in. Closest battle is still going to be in that GT3 class with Jake Luther and Jesse Olsen, still separated by about a half a second, as Medina still out in that 4th place car. As you see the 159 of Georgie McKay go on the inside and put Kevin a lap down per class. But everybody's really stretched out, as you see on our track map right now, that the whole track is really covered. But as a 3-mile long racetrack, it's easy to happen with only 30 cars on the track. But Justin Barrera still out in front in that GTP class right now. Justin's last lap was a 125.4, and Ricardo had a 124.1, so a 1.5 seconds faster last lap time. And they're about 6 seconds separating them. So it's going to be interesting to see if Justin did not take tires on Daniel. Is how much are these tires going to fall off? I mean, the new tire model definitely, if you overheat them and whatnot, they really get crazy. But do you think that it was a smart choice to not take tires for this stint?
We'll see. I think Justin kind of put himself in a box there with staying out as long as he did. It was going to cost him way more time to take tires, whereas Ricardo pitted early, got had to take on more fuel, but that also allowed them to not lose as much time by taking those tires. So that's one of the things these drivers are going to have to learn is the strategies, and with the new cars and this new season, it'll be interesting to see how those play out, maybe track to track.
Definitely. As we see the third place car right now of Carson Keene, these guys really starting to separate themselves apart. Carson has dropped back quite a bit. He's about 30 seconds behind Ricardo now, which is a little surprising because he was tucked up with them earlier as he gets by Billy Bowerman down the straightaway in that GT3 car. Billy doing a good job running in the 14th spot right now in that Empire Racing Audi. As we go back up towards the front in the GT3 class, then we come back to Billy again in the 14th spot. So we can talk about Billy for a minute. Daniel and Billy and I are actually going to try running the Bathurst 12 hours this coming weekend. So this is our teammate out there, and we, the three amigos here, are going to try to survive the mountain for 12 hours. Daniel, how do you think that's going to come out?
Yeah, I've been putting in some laps at Bathurst and trying to stay off the walls, but we'll see how it goes, and we might kind of inherit the Fun Pyre name that was given during Daytona when I was running with Billy. So we'll find something to do and keep us entertained for 12 hours.
No, it's a fun group, and I look forward to running with you guys. It's going to be a fun session. It's not the easiest track to run on, but once you master it, it is a definite joy. It has quickly become one of my top favorite tracks on the service. As you got back out in front, we'll go back up front with the GTP class as Justin Barrera still out in front in that 98 car. 124.9 last time by, and Ricardo with a 124.7. So he didn't gain as much time this last time. He's still about 6 seconds back, but it could be due to traffic. It could be just how they're catching the traffic right now. Justin looks like he has a good opening gap in front of him, and Ricardo's really just catching what Justin had a couple laps ago right now, being that he's about 6 seconds back as he's coming up on Jack Lee right now. Ricardo's really trying to push, but he doesn't want to make any mistakes and get tangled up with anybody as they're coming on the front straightaway. It's going to be a good time right now for him to tuck in behind Jack Lee and just get a good draft down the front straightaway and get a little shake and bake slingshot down that front straightaway. As you see right now, he's 7 seconds behind Justin Barrera. So it's going to be a little bit, you see him just at the end of that front straightaway. So he's about a half a straightaway back right now. But it's going to get a good opening right now to hopefully close in as we got less than 7 minutes to go in this 50-minute race. The question also is, Ricardo did pit early. Did he use up too much fuel in this second stint? Because he's been pushing pretty hard to try to reel back in to Justin. I mean, it could be anybody's race right now. But the GT3 class, we still have Jesse Olsen being shown out in front now. Looks like Jesse taking over the lead. Not quite sure what happened to Jake Luther. He's about a second and a half back now, but Luther dropping back into that second spot. Missing a little bit of action every once in a while. So that's the one thing about running three different classes. We got to try to pay attention to everybody, and it's hard to catch these little things sometimes. But Jesse Olsen now out in front in that Audi, and he's really starting to pull away just a bit. A 1.4 second advantage back to Jake Luther, and it's actually growing. So it's not that Jake has a tow right now, but that lap car of Georgie McKay might help him get a little bit more tow in there. So it gets him a little bit closer as we're less than 6 minutes to go. Georgie gets a little sideways coming on those rumble strips. That does make it a little hairy when you get that left rear tire over that section, but Georgie able to get it under control and get going again. But this is your leader in the GT3 class right now is Jesse Olsen in that Sudi and slow motion broadcasting. But here's the pass for the lead right here. Jesse goes on the inside and takes that spot away. Looks like it was coming onto the front straightaway. It looks like Jake trying to drag race him back down, but Jesse may have got a little bit of draft tow from that GTP car to help him pull ahead just a tiny bit down that front straightaway. So, Daniel, looks like Jesse got the job done. Oh, but it looks like it might have been a little bit closer as we cut away back away. It looked like that Jake may have had a run back at him, but Jesse able to stick it down, Daniel. And that, and as we talked about, that front straightaway has been the passing point for most of the day.
It has, and that's kind of where we expected to see most of our moves, and we saw another one there for the lead. But it would have been interesting to see what happened with Jake Luther there, if he was making a move back to the inside. But on board with Justin Barrera, Wayne Castile, who is out of the race. And there we go, back with Justin Barrera. He's still trying to keep up his pace, work through the traffic as quick as possible, just to hold off Ricardo Serrano from catching him too quickly, as he puts our GT3 leaders and a couple more cars in between him and Ricardo.
Yeah, Justin's doing a great job of cutting through traffic and not losing too much ground. And right behind him is your leaders in the GT3 class. But Justin has been able to maintain that 5-second advantage over Ricardo Serrano for a good last 5 laps or so. As we're closing in on 3.5 minutes to go. You know, the closest battle for the lead right now is definitely in the GT3 class. As you see, Serrano splitting your top 2 cars in the GT3 class. And here comes Jack Lee. Jack Lee out in front in the LMP2 class. Good to see Jack Lee running out front. I know he had a little bit of a rough season last season, but good to see him out in that animal print 103 leading the way. And he's just ahead of Elliott Burton. Burton about 4.5 seconds back in that second spot. So we've only got about 6 of the LMP2 cars out here right now. Leon Clover running in the 3rd spot, but we are hoping to have a full 10-car field when we do come out next week. So it should be a little bit more packed next week with the drivers, as the field should start filling in a little bit, as this is just our practice session right here. There's no points awarded, no harm, no foul. This is just kind of learning each other and getting used to everybody. As we're closing in on 2 minutes to go, so it's going to finish where Justin Barrera is at on the track, in the 98 car. Justin looks like he is coming off of possibly the center section right now, coming down that back straightaway. So he's going to get by for one more lap for sure. And hopefully he's able to still hang on to it. He's got a 4-second advantage now, so it looks like Ricardo is starting to close that gap a bit. Oh, as Georgie McKay gets a little sideways, gets that tire off the rumble strip. And oh, that wasn't Georgie. Who was that? Who was that other car? There it is. That is Lilac. Lilac getting a little hairy off that section. Both the team cars for Prismatic getting all together is kind of hard to tell them apart. But as you see Justin Barrera coming down the front straightaway one more time, and he is going to get by for one more lap, still with 3.5, you know, just under a 4-second advantage over Ricardo Serrano. Ricardo just close enough that he could see him, but just not far enough that that he can get any kind of draft. So as they're coming into turn 1 right here, this will be, they're going to come by for their white flag next time by. So Justin Barrera still hanging on to that lead. Serrano with a 124.6 last time by. He gained 1.5 seconds on this last lap. He is really pushing hard to try to reel back into Justin to make it a little bit of a battle. As you see kind of on the standings there on the left side, that everybody's kind of spread out right now. There's no close battles, but this is going to be the big drama for the race right now, is Justin Barrera out in front, but Ricardo Serrano is just closing the gap. As you can see, Justin get through some lap traffic, but it's still 2.5 seconds difference between the top 2 cars. And that's gone down substantially over the last couple laps, Daniel. I mean, I think they're going to come around right now as we're closing in on the white flag lap to come across this time by. Is it going to be the white flag this time as they come up on the 50-minute mark? Let's see how it comes down the front straightaway. This should be their white flag as Justin comes down the straightaway now. Daniel, how do you think Ricardo's going to do this? It's 2.2 seconds. Oh, this is the finish. This is the checkered flag right here. So it is going to go to Justin Barrera. I mistimed it. So Justin Barrera is your winner in the GTP class. He's able to hold off Ricardo Serrano. Here comes your winner in the LMP2 class, Jack Lee, coming down the front straightaway. And Jack doing a little victory swerve down the straightaway. Good to see Jack out in front. And here comes your winner in the GT3 class, Jesse Olson. Good battle for these guys the entire race. Jesse and Jake had a great battle, but it looks like Jesse got the better end of the deal today as you see guys start coming across. Um, like I said, this is just a practice race to everybody. There's no points awarded for this race, but it is going to be a great season right now as you see everybody starting to make their way around. Daniel, you surprised with the finish? Everybody getting spread out, or is this kind of what you expected to see, Daniel?
Yeah, not full fields at GTP and LMP2 that we'll see for the rest of the season. So not all that surprising. Got a little more spread out, but we'll we'll see some good action all the rest of the year for sure.
Little victory donuts in turn one here with the guys. I think we'll go over the finishing order here, and maybe we'll get some guys in for an interview. Um, oh yeah, we're still finishing some cars coming across. Um, I can hear somebody doing some donuts in turn one right now. Oh, the 159 car of Georgie McKay doing a little donuts, getting it into the grass too. So everybody just having some fun. It looked like everybody had a great race today. Um, but nobody can hold a candle to the master of the donuts, and that's Justin Hall. That guy can draw a rose in the track if you wanted to. So that guy does an amazing job. So here's your finishing order, Daniel. Why don't you bring him down for us?
Yeah, Justin Barrera bringing home the overall win in GTP class, holding off Ricardo Serrano, who finished second. Carson Keene, who's up in that battle, finishes third. Jack Lee comes home fourth overall and winner of the LMP2. Mike Weir fourth in GTP and fifth overall, and then second in LMP2, Elliot Burton third. As you're going to take a look at the race results, there we go. There's a LMP2 finish order. So Jack Lee, Elliot Burton, Leon Clover, your podium for that. Daniel Curio, Georgina McKay, and Lilac Zier bringing home the rest of that field. And then GT3, Jesse Olson takes the win. Jake Luther finishes second. Bradley Alvis in third. Kevin Medida fourth. Matt Dweeder in fifth. Bjorn Stange sixth. JD Daniels seventh. Eric Rodriguez eighth. John Javecki ninth. And Dominic Angelicchio rounding out your top 10. 11th place will be Joey Rutledge. Eric Lutsky takes home 12th. Andrew Korostepke finishes 13th. Billy Bowerman finishing at 14th, and Andrew Power in 15th. Christopher Daniels 16th, Ben Simek 17th, Brandon Johnson 18th, Zach Robinson 19th in GT3.
That is the entire field and a great race so far. And walking the paddock, it looks like we have our GTP winner. We'll pull in our winner from the GTP class, Justin Barrera. Great drive today. Looks like you did quite a bit of fuel mileage to save and actually be the last car on the track before you came into the pit. So we've come quite accustomed to you saving fuel, but was that your plan the entire time? Is really staying on the fuel mileage?
Not really. I mean, the problem with these cars is they're really easy to lock up into a hard brake zone. So you know, I just saved some fuel going in there, let off early, and over time to add it up.
Yeah, it was a I mean, you could see Ricardo go in. I mean, he probably went in a good 5, 6 laps before you at least. I was really worried if he was going to make it to the end or not, but it also looked like he took tires. Did you take tires on your stop, or did you stay
No,
on them?
I think taking tires would have just slowed anybody down in this type of race because they're cold. You have to reheat them, and even though the track's warm, you still have to get temperature back in, which if you're not good at means you would be better off served if your tires were hot coming out of the pits.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I noticed that a couple of the GTPs did take tires on their stop, and you could see where they came back, and I think that's how you ended up with your 8-second advantage because you were able to come out of the pits on your hot tires, and everybody else was back there. So, how did you think the race went for you? It was the first kind of practice race for season 3. How was it having 3 different classes out on the track at the same time?
Well, there's some issues we gotta go over, in my opinion, but overall, I think it was decent. I was nowhere really. I have no idea what happened on track. If people got penalties, if they spun a bunch of times, what happened really? I when I went in, I thought that uh, Castillo was going another lap. Actually, I was almost about to go another lap, but it was too close. So I was like, okay. And then as I came out, did my out lap, I was like, where's Castillo out? Like he should be in first when I come around.
Yeah, it
Oh,
looked
okay.
like yeah, it looked like he disconnected, so,
Yeah.
yeah, that
So
was a
I
little
was like,
strange.
that's where I was looking for because the other guys, I didn't know what had happened to them. And so I was just trying to race my own race, really. Like after they started pulling away, I was like, I just can't push this cart. Did this track, I'm not good at it. So I'll just stay where I'm at.
Well, you did good enough, Justin. You definitely showed the pace out there, and you were able to pull away and take the win in this practice event for us for the WSRL Season 3. Before we let you go, you got anybody you want to give a shout out to or say thanks to?
Yeah, I'll shout out to the Shut Up and Drive It guys. Wrong Stuff Recently, Slow Motion Broadcasting, my folks, mom, dad, sister, brother, all of them. Um, and my friend that's still in the hospital. He's still recovering, but it looks like he's getting better and he'll be getting back soon enough. So yeah, um, and everybody else that's helped me get here. So I appreciate it all, guys.
Awesome. Congratulations, Justin. I'll let you go enjoy your evening, and congrats on taking the win today.
Thanks, y'all. I said I was gonna like get a joke paint job out there, so I
All
don't have a
right.
paint job ready yet, so I was like, let's throw on a joke.
All right. We'll let you go. Thank you, Justin, and we'll look forward to see you next week.
All right, thanks, y'all.
All right, Daniel, it looks like we have an LMP class winner for you. Let's go ahead and bring in your winner for you, Daniel.
Yeah, we got Jack Lee here, winner of the LMP2 class this evening, and looked like a really solid run from you there, Jack. We didn't see too much, but sometimes that's the kind of race you need. So how did your race go?
It- Well, off the start, it didn't go very well. Into Dunlop Corner, I spun on the first lap, and so I'm behind the whole race and catching up. But I just put my head down, said, I know I have the pace here. I need to show that, and I'm have enough experience that the traffic. I have some idea of how to predict that. So through traffic and just pace, it went pretty well. I'd say it's a great start for the season. It keeps me hopeful.
Yeah, definitely a great start for your season. And can you speak on the dynamic a little bit, where now the LMP2 class is no longer the top class and only having to fight off the GT3s, but now you're kind of mixed in with faster class GTPs going past you and GT3s that you're much faster than.
Well, Fuji isn't the greatest track for having a class that's a little bit faster, but not much faster because the pace difference between the P2s and the GT3s is pretty significant. It's roughly 10 seconds a lap. And so you get by them pretty quickly. But the difference between the GTPs and the LMP2s is 2 seconds, 3 seconds at best. And so a lot of times those guys are going to struggle to overtake a LMP2 car just because there's not as much pace difference. Now they will, but at some points I had a GTP behind me and they tried to go or overtake while I was overtaking a GT3 car, and it just doesn't work out how you would expect. The track isn't wide enough, or they're not. The GTD isn't expecting two cars on the inside and some corners, so it definitely adds a dynamic that is is interesting. No one likes to ever slow up to faster class car. He's driving slowly, but luckily we didn't have any of that today. So other than that, it's nice to have a car that's sometimes faster than you that can bail you out of a battle uh, through draft. So
Okay, that's cool. Interesting, and will definitely be something we look at the rest of the season as we get longer into this year. But how anybody you'd like to thank? Any sponsors?
uh, not this week. Yeah, just just working on myself, working on uh, um, things at home. But yeah, nothing big this week. So yeah, thank you.
Well, congratulations again on bringing home the LMP2 win, and good luck on the races the rest of the season.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And that was your winner in the LMP2 class. And now we're going to pull in our winner for the GT3 class. The winner in the GT3 class goes to Jesse Olson. Jesse, looked like a pretty pretty mild race for you during the race. Looked like you kind of got tucked in behind Jake there for a while, and then you just had an opportunity to pounce on him and make that pass down that front straightaway. Is that kind of how the whole race went for you, Jesse?
Yeah, qualified fourth. First lap shenanigans. Was fourth behind Brad Alves. He had a slip up in the fast right-hander. I got by him there. Jake had a slip up in the straight. I didn't pass JD on track. I think he had a problem in the pits, but yeah, just a couple mistakes from drivers made it like I wouldn't say easy, but I mean, uh, it wasn't as hard as it had to be.
Yeah, it looked like it was a pretty uneventful race for you. I think JD was in the pits longer than expected for some reason. I don't know if he clicked something or did something different, but that led to him dropping down the field a little bit. But you just kind of talk about the dynamic about having a third class out there. So we've got the GT3s out there in your class, but now we have two cars that are faster than your car. How did it come through for you? How did the racing, how did the overtaking go in your race?
Most was pretty civil. I didn't really have any issues besides a run in with Wayne at the last turn where he kind of sent it up the inside, and I had nowhere to go by the time his car got there. But those are things that happen. I mean, other than that, it was pretty good. I will say, from a dig, a couple of those slow corners with an LMP2 and a GT3, they put down power. Actually, the GT3 probably puts down power a little bit better with the traction control. So that can get a little tricky in a few spots. But other than that, was pretty good night. I know we didn't have a complete full field tonight, being a warm up race, but I thought it was pretty simple, like I said.
Yeah, I think it was a good example of what to come for this whole season. Looking at the calendar coming up, you got any races you got circled on your calendar of what's to come? A highlight, or are you looking to do a bye week on one, or what you got coming up?
I haven't even looked at the calendar to tell you the truth. I always I'm a little bit bipolar on Le Mans. I typically despise the track, but it races so fun with the draft. Four big straightaways that it gets
Yep.
crazy, and it's a lot of fun to dice it up. So I guess I'm looking forward to Le Mans on the circuit, and Hungaroring I think is going to be. That's the one you guys are gonna have to be on your toes because that is I mean, I wouldn't call it a bull ring, but a lot of people call it Monaco without the walls. It's pretty tight, so that could get spicy.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some spicy races this season, but I think it's going to be nice that they're later on in the season, so everybody's kind of learn their racecrafts and get through it. So it should lead to a great season. Congratulations again on your win today, Jesse. Is there anybody you want to give shout outs to or thanks to anybody?
Shout out to the whole entire Sudi team, and Adam here for putting together a pretty slick livery for this Audi here. Hope it looked good on broadcast. Obviously shout out to my wife and my son who, managed to give me a few hours in the evening to break away and have run with you guys. So appreciate you guys doing the broadcast, and hopefully I'll get back up here again later this season.
Awesome. Congratulations, Jesse, and we look forward to seeing you more up in the front the rest of the season.
You got it. Night, guys.
Thank you. And that concludes our first race. It's kind of our practice race here for the WSRL season number 3 at Fuji. Next Tuesday night, we will be at Le Mans, so that should lead to some great racing as well with those long straightaways. But if you're looking for some more entertainment on Thursday night at 9:15 Eastern, we got the Spec 5 class right back here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. And then Sunday, January 12th, we've got the Radicals running at Monza combined with no chicane. That XSLR race is going to be just off the grid. Daniel, that is one of your announcing gigs. What do you think it's going to be like with Monza no chicanes?
Yeah, it's about 90% of full throttle. So of the track will be full throttle. So it's going to be fast. It's going to be probably a little chaotic, but should be a great race to watch.
All right, guys. So thank you for joining us tonight on SMB and the WSRL. I am Mike Braun, joined today by Daniel Hall and also Adam Thompson in the production booth. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week at Le Mans.
So Patrick, do we describe this for everybody, Rob?
What?
You describe it. You describe it.
What?
I do enough talking.
Whatever. What? I think any car's dead in iRacing. I think it's gone.
Oh, it's definitely. I agree. It's not going to survive much, but I still think we'll find opportunities to race it, just not as fruitful as before. Some of them just want to make. What's the thing? Like that guy wanted to make like dolls out of Tyler's hair, but then there's just other guys who are just like. He did. He would say weird things to Tyler, man. Like he was a strange guy. And then like other guys would just show up and always like, "Oh, we never met you? Sure, come race this 24 with us." And then just jump in the car and wreck us out in a lap and be like, "Okay, never see you again."
Yeah, that was
okay. Well, better luck next year, I guess.
That was the guy from